right. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
And welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party. My name is Mother Banjo, one of your hosts.
My name is Anthony Ihrig, the other host.
And today we have joining us from Florence, Massachusetts, Peter Mulvey.
Hi there. Oh, nice. Oh, well done. Sound effects. Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's not sound effects. It's the real deal. People are out
Yes,
there excited for the show, including Alan, who is like right on time from
Excellent.
Texas, joining
mojito.
us for the mojito. Good
Must be a
choice.
special day.
Oh man, I wish I had the fixings for a mojito. Connie from Richfield.
Hey, Connie.
Um, yeah, beautiful sunny day here in the Twin Cities. And Matt from Urbana. And we're so happy to have you here. Tell us where you're tuned in from. And oh, Ordinary Elephant, one of our past guests on the
Hey,
show.
good to see you.
Nice.
Hi,
Um,
guys. I love those people.
oh, they're great. And tell us where you are tuned in from. If you're having a beverage, depending on what time it is, where you are, what you're up against, you might or might not be indulging in something more fun. Right now, it's a beautiful sunny day here, and it's been a April was rough. That's all I'm gonna say. But it's
Mm.
sunny and warm. I think it hit 70 today here in Minneapolis, and so
Woo.
I cracked open a classic light beer. That's right, a
Whoa, green belt.
Grain Belt Premium. So
Nice.
summer beer.
Nice. Oh,
And it might have actually been in our fridge since last summer, for all I know. I'm not quite sure. Tony, what are you drinking?
I'm staying local as well here. I got the Sweet Child Divine from
Fulton.
Fulton Brewery, one of my favorite IPAs.
Nice. And Peter, do you have anything in that mug of yours?
I, I do. It's chicory. It's just
Ooh.
chicory with a little bit of oat milk in it
Oh,
because it's too early. It's too early
totally
to
fair.
drink, and it's too late to drink coffee.
Yes. Well, cheers to that. And let's see, we have Haim from Alaska. We have folks tuned in from all over the place. Eric Brandt in St. Paul,
Hey,
another one of
Eric.
our past guests.
Yeah.
And he also says Grain Belt forever. Yes. So cheers to that.
And we got Matt McIver in Belfast.
All
So
Ah.
we
right.
have Alaska and Belfast.
And this is our second week in a row with someone tuning in from Belfast. So we might
Yeah.
need a satellite location or remote from Belfast. And Chris from having a Uda Pills German Pills outside too. Yeah, it's a beautiful day. And Tony, you also are having the sunshine, but you're not in Minneapolis as you normally are.
No,
You're in a
I'm in
hotel room?
I'm in a hotel room. We have a sound check up in Ulen, Minnesota, right after the show here. So I beat feet to get up here so I could do the show. I'm an American here in well, I don't know if you can see that beautiful, beautiful Ulen, Minnesota. But the sun is just peeked out, and it's Friday. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, we are happy to be here. Yeah, your band, the High 48s, is playing with Becky Schlegel, another one of our past guests. So that's going
Yes,
to be pretty
another
cool.
wonderful songwriter. Yeah, it's going to be a fun night of music for me here.
Well, it's going to be
Nice.
a fun hour of music here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. If you are new to the show, this is kind of what we do. We hang out, chat, have some drinks, and we invite different artists on to dig into their back catalog. They pick an album of theirs and they pick the tracks, and we feature them, talk about the recording, the songs, and answer your questions. So we want you to participate, ask questions of any of us or about the songs or anything like that, and we'll try and get to as many as we can. Um, but Peter, for people, I know you have some fans tuned in, but for folks who maybe aren't as familiar with your music, do you want to give a like the 2 minute bio of your life story of like where you grew up, how you started making music, and maybe where this album fits into that?
Oh, wow. So I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Got a guitar when I was 7 years old. I played my first gig when I was 16 at a coffee house, and and pretty much had made up my mind by that time that I wanted to play gigs for a living. I did get a degree in theater at Marquette University, and I started a band with some friends of mine that were in the theater department, and pretty soon we were able to pack rooms around the town. So we were actually, that was our part-time job while in college, and then I think we released one record, and then everyone went off to their lives, and I started putting out records. I moved out to Boston. I became a subway musician. Then I got up on the road by about 1992, which is 40 years ago now. No, 30 years ago now. And so I've been on the road for about 30 years. The Letters from a Flying Machine record came out in 2009, but Eric wants to know which coffee house in Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
It was The Coffee House. That's what it was called. It was called The Coffee House. It was a series in the basement of a church.
You can tell it was a different time where there might have only been one coffee house.
Exactly, right? Right, and Milwaukee's sort of like that anyway. The baseball stadium is named County Stadium.
Just right to the point.
Yeah, exactly. So this record came out in 2009 called Letters from a Flying Machine, but the genesis of it began in 2000 when my first niece was born. My wife at the time, her sister had a kid, and I remember just jotting a note. I went to visit the kid, on her first day in the delivery room, and then as I drove home, and I just jotted down a little note like, Grace, it's so good to meet you, and you look like this, your mom looked tired but pretty good, welcome to the world, this is what happened. And I just kept doing that with all my nieces and nephews. Is I would write some note to them, usually from an airplane, and I would describe, they just had an election in Mexico, and the party that has ruled for 70 years just, was replaced finally. Democracy is a thing we grown-ups invented. You went for a bike ride with your dad, and I've tried to give them these tiny little pictures of the lives of their parents when they were young.
Cool.
And so, those sort of percolated for years and years. And then basically I had a handful of songs, but I also had some ideas about mortality and time and the scale of time that I wanted to frame up. And it occurred to me that it would work very well if they were written as though they were letters to imaginary nieces and nephews. So I changed their names, created backing tracks for the letters, read them out loud. I think there's 4 of them on this record. So the record consists of 7 songs and 4 spoken word pieces. And there it was. It came out in 2009 and people seemed to dig it.
That's
Awesome.
cool.
What a cool concept.
And have you
for a
gotten
record.
feedback from the kids after all these years about?
Oh yeah,
these-
I mean, not specifically about the letters, because of course when they got them, they couldn't even read. I think the feedback is more whatever relationship you wind up having with them over time, But I also expect, I hope, that once these kids are like 35, 40, and their parents are getting old, and they have kids of their own, I hope they drag them back out and read them, because it's really interesting. When, as an adult, I've occasionally run across evidence that my parents were young people, who didn't know what the hell was going on, and were just making do, and that's a very reassuring thing,
Mhm.
Oh, they were just dogging it out too.
Right.
Well, I love that. And let's take a listen to the first track that you picked from this album, Kids in the Square. Is there anything you want to say about it before we take a listen?
Yeah, I wrote this with a Boston songwriter named Tim Guerin. And at the time, I think we were just talking about the sort of replaceability of human beings. But nowadays, it seems like a Hail Mary pass in hoping that the kids are going to be more revolutionary than we managed to be.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's give it a listen. This is Kids in the Square. Peter Mulvey here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
If you got a pretty good idea of what you're looking for, then you got a pretty good idea of what you'll find. You don't have to go so very far these days to find yourself a made-up mind. Oh, the man-made man is driving big shiny wheels way too fast down a rainy stretch of road. You know the story, you know how this turns out. Wheels up in the dark and cold. Wheels up in the dark and cold. But those kids down in the square are dancing like they just don't care. I think the know-it-all waltzes away in the morning rain. In the morning rain. So we can ride for a while on this big blue wave of plastic and petroleum and sodium light. But chickens run in circles, the circles are getting smaller, and the fox is in the town tonight. The fox is on the town tonight. But those kids down in the square are dancing like they just don't care. Maybe they know it all waltzes away in the morning rain. In the morning rain. Jesus, Billy Butler, things sure do fall apart if you could only see that rough beast slouching now. Because our middle has no center, our up has got no down, because we ain't got no brains, no how. Oh, the rifle's got no safety, and the barn has got no door, and the old man has got no coat for when it snows. And that has got no this, and this has got no that, and the emperor has got no clothes. The emperor has got no clothes. But those kids down in the square still dancing like they just don't care. Maybe they know it all waltzes away in the morning rain. Oh, those kids out in the streets, they raise up their hands, they keep moving their feet. I think they know it all waltzes away in the morning rain. In the morning rain.
All right, Peter Mulvey with Kids in the Square from his 2009 release, Letters from a Flying Machine, which we are revisiting today on the back catalog listening party with Peter Mulvey himself. And what a great way to start off the day. I love the vibe of that tune.
Oh, it
Thank
sounds so
you.
good.
Thank you. Damn.
One comment from John was just how good this record sounds, and I just want to say straight out of the gate, man, the production on that track is it sounds so good. It sounds like a live jazz recording or something. The bass is just so full, and just the organ and the drums. It's really amazing. I'm gonna get to it at some point, but I want to hear all about the recording of that one.
Oh yeah, I know. Well, so I actually recorded a lot of the tracks myself on a laptop, and then we took it into Dave Chalfant, who lives out here in Western Massachusetts, to flesh it out. And what I remember was, that's my friend Paul Kohansky on the upright bass, and I believe it was Jaser Giles on the Fender Rhodes, and Zach Johano and Chris Delmhorst, I think, is singing backing vocals there. And God, yeah, I mean, they do. They all sound really tremendous, and they all sort of get their sonic space. It's really cool. Also, someone asked about the cover art, Connie. So the cover art is a linoleum cut artist named Peter Nevins, and the most famous thing he's been a part of was he was a part of Hadestown. He did the artwork for Hadestown, the record. And he also did the artwork for Anais Mitchell's, and that he works in linoleum cut, and then he sort of puts them in the computers, and he manipulates them from there. He also did Anais Mitchell's, what is that record?
The Brightness.
The Brightness. That's him as well. And he's done a bunch of Gillian Welch posters. And I sort of told him what it was I was looking for, and he nailed it on the first shot. Like, I want to be in an airplane writing a letter by candlelight, which is, of course, surreal. And then I wanted there to be a moon outside, but if you look really closely, you can see Greenland and the East Coast and Ireland. Like, that's actually the Earth, which begs the question, where the hell is this airplane?
That's so cool. Yeah, I did not pick up on that. That is awesome.
I'm Mr. Subtle.
I love that. And it's cool that you hearing the story about picking out this artist and telling him what you wanted, because I know you're a painter yourself, so it must be interesting to sort of, I know, like, the visual parts are important to you, so picking out an artist for a project, do you tend to work with similar artists different times, or do you try and make everyone really fresh?
I tend to just work with friends and people whose art I like. So Amy Rupel is a painter from Wisconsin who moved to Portland a long time ago. I think she's done 3 of my records. Guzzo Pintz is a Wisconsin painter. He did the live record that I just put out, and I have a record coming out. My father-in-law and his husband are my wife's dad and his husband are a painting entity themselves called Billy Bob Greencoil, and they did the cover for that. I just love working with artists, and it sort of brings something new out of you. And the other thing, lately, with the advent of Kickstarter, I get to do this thing where I commission the artist, and then someone buys the painting, and
Nice.
the money just goes to the artist. Like, I pay them to paint the thing, and then they get more money from the Kickstarter, because art. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to make a living in art. I don't know if you know about that.
What?
Yeah, it sure is.
I mean, have you seen Tony's hotel room at the American? It's pretty fancy.
Pretty swanky stuff here.
Oh yeah, man.
We heard the AC kicking on earlier, so we know
Yeah, and then
how
I just
fancy
hit it
is.
like this a couple times, and it.
Yeah.
Throw your beer bottle at it; it'll be fine.
It's like yeah.
Well, this is so cool to get more of these stories, and that "Kids in the Square" song has such a warm vibe to it. Like, I don't know, with the sunshine pouring in and hearing this song, it's so. We were talking about the visual components, but that song, to me, like many of your songs, is very visual. Like, I could picture everything happening right there.
Yeah, we tend to. I mean, both myself and Timmy tend to write imagistically. Like, the man-made man driving big shiny wheels. Like, although he is the king, Tim is the king of the way sentences sound. Like, all his stuff is really chewable. And then, I remember, I love writing with him because he's so intuitive. I mean, all songwriters are intuitive, but in my case, it involves burrowing down through a very crusty, thick veneer of intellectualism to get to my intuition. And I swear, Timmy just kind of has a straight line into his own sense of intuition. So, God.
Interesting. Well, Matt mentioned, I think this is the Matt from Belfast, that "Kids in the Square" is one of his favorite songs to play. And so, I mean, I can totally see that because, your songs can vary so much in style and tenor. And this one is just almost jaunty for Peter Mulvey sing along.
For me, yes, I think that is fair to say. And harmonically, this one's sort of like just a nice medium speed fastball over the center of the plate.
Well, but it's got a nice kind of just, I don't know, jazzy swing to it and stuff. I'd love to hear if is that part of your upbringing. I mean, where does that come from?
God, I mean, for sure. Listening to Monk and Train, and I also went through this giant Tin Pan Alley excursion. I was listening to a ton of Hoagie Carmichael and Irving Mills, and the sort of both the sort of more vibrant and vital jazz thing, and then there was the sort of songwriterly, Cole Porter sort of. I guess that was where pop and jazz intersected for a while, and they all had that light touch. Phil Metzler. Considering the 3 years that passed between the Knuckleball Suite and this record, do you remember feeling like this was a continuation of your path or a departure? That's a super good question. You know, a long time ago, I used to divide my records into sort of breathing out records and breathing in records and breathing out records. So on a breathing in record, you were sort of absorbing new ideas and grappling with them, and then you synthesized them and you had a breathing out record. This would have definitely been a breathing in record. You know, I was trying to figure out new things, but it all feels like, you know, one, I don't think they actually happened that neatly, and then two, like, especially right after this record, I just started working with producers a lot more. Like the next thing I did, I think, was made a record with Chuck Prophet, and then I made a record with Ani DeFranco. Then I made a record with Todd Sikafus. Like I liked. It occurred to me, you know, why on earth wouldn't I just collide my own aesthetic off of really strong personalities and see what happens?
Well, and it's interesting you mentioned working with Dave Shelfant and Christelle Marcel, these other well-known folks. I should mention for folks who've been longtime listeners of the Back Catalog Listening Party that the Neilds, who were our guests on the Back Catalog, and Dave Shelfant, a member of that band as well. So
that's right. That's right.
The connections. I feel like every week on Back Catalog now that we've done enough episodes, it's like, oh yeah, they've worked with so and so on this.
3 degrees of separation, right?
Or 2, right? Yeah.
Exactly. You've had 108 episodes, and there are only 364 of us. So
it's a good thing they've all put out a bunch of records. So
exactly.
Well, we want to hear more tracks from this record. So the next track you picked to feature is "Letter from a Flying Machine." And is there anything you want to say about this?
Yeah, this was sort of the first one, and what I was trying to do with it was frame up time, a fairly large amount of time, vis-a-vis a human life, which is the theme.
All right, let me get the album art going here, and we'll give it a listen. This is "Letter from a Flying Machine" from Peter Mulvey here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
June 17th, 2006, over the Great Lakes. Dear Edgar, last week, your father and I hooked up trailers behind our bicycles and trundled you and your sister into them over your initial strident protests. Then we all rode 12 miles along the Hank Aaron Trail down by the ballpark and through the Menominee River Valley. As we rode along, I marveled, as I often do, at these extraordinary machines, these bicycles, which allowed us to cover the distance at a brisk but relaxed clip in a little over an hour. But that is nothing. Courtesy of a very different machine, I am at this moment hurtling eastward 8 miles over Ontario, over land and water and little herds of cumulus clouds far below. Further, I am writing these thoughts with yet another machine, a mechanical pencil that would have flipped Da Vinci's wig. And who knows what he would have made of the pocket-sized computer that is currently playing a Bach sonata through tiny speakers hidden in my ears. Oh, the gadgetry. To make this recording, these amazing sounds must have leapt from an Italian violin into a German microphone to be rendered as ones and zeros somewhere in the dark of a Japanese hard drive. And I wonder, did Bach write these notes down with a goose quill? With ink made from what? Charcoal, linseed oil, and water? And at this very moment, the smell of baking cookies has filled this flying machine. They are baking cookies in the sky, Edgar. Seriously. In the late 21st century, when you're teleporting from here to there or traveling by personal jetpack or however you get around, will there be cookies involved? But all these wonders, all these machines, all that is nothing too. Or less than nothing if there is such a thing. Because there are people alive on Earth today who could go 12 miles along the Hank Aaron Trail in a little over an hour on foot. Barefoot, no less. Because the sky is and was full of birds. Because this music must have sparked to life somewhere in the wet dark of Bach's brain. Anyhow, when they come down the aisle, I believe I'll have a cookie. You keep up the good work. Love, Uncle Peter.
I love that.
Wow.
That was Letter from a Flying Machine from Peter Mulvey's album Letters from a Flying Machine. And Peter rightly recognized, yeah, Midwest Express. I remember that
Right?
Midwest Airlines, right? Used to, based in Milwaukee, a regional carrier used to hand you when you got on the plane like hot chocolate chip cookies.
I
They were
remember when flying was
amazing.
fun.
Oh, I
Right.
know.
And they had no first class. Like all the seats were pretty good and had really good leg room. You know?
You got a full can of soda.
Right. Right. And,
Yeah, not the little mini ones. Yeah.
No, exactly. And the Milwaukeeans all remember that. Midwesterners remember that.
Yeah, because I remember connecting through there to go a lot of places, and I'd always try and do it because I was like, I don't want to change in Chicago from Minneapolis. I want to change in Milwaukee.
Right.
I
Right.
love the sounds that you brought in, like the airplane, like that kind of hum of an airplane and
Yeah.
things like that. Can you talk a little bit about your process of putting these songs together with the kind of, it's almost like a play in your
Yeah.
ears here.
Yeah. I mean, so you'll be happy to know that the sound is just me going, and then manipulating it and adding a whole bunch of low end to it. And so on that track, there's really just the hum of the airplane engines, and then one of the Bach violin partitas. I first heard it on a Gideon Kramer recording, and he did the sonatas and partitas. So I can't remember which one that is, but I wrote to his management and I said, I would love to use and pay for. I'd love to pay for his recording of this, and they said, that's great. Would you be willing to just pay a nominal fee of $10,000? And I was like, whoa, there's Sparky. Like Gideon Kramer is like the real deal. He's an international superstar. So I called my friend Hillary up and said, is there a chance you could play this? And she said, you realize that's like asking a friend if there's a chance they could jump over a garage. Like that is the Himalayas of violin playing. But she did. She
Wow.
she managed to tackle it. And she was embarrassed about it, but what do I know? It sounds good to me, and that's it. Those are the only three elements on that track.
I love that, and there's something, especially watching the artwork, which is not something you normally do when you're listening to a record, but we
Right,
do on the
right.
back catalog listening party. Is I'm like looking at this image, listening to that track, and I felt like I was the guy, I was you in that seat with the
Right.
candlelight, because it had all those elements. It had this kind of, the old like Baroque sounds of the strings, and then you have like in the candlelight, it reminded me of I recently listened to the audible version of Lincoln in the Bardo with Will Offerman.
Yes.
And he has and the way the way he talks has this very like 19th century kind of vibe to it, like letters from the like letters you would write, and that's really what it evoked in me, is, or when you hear these like Civil War letters,
Yeah.
except you're talking about riding Midwest Airlines and getting the chocolate chip cookie from the flight attendant, and I just love the juxtaposition of all of that. It's really
That's
neat.
what I'm trying to do there is telescope time. We tend not to notice these things, but the United States is not that old. Like, to give you one other example, Mozart wrote the B minor Mass in 1783. England was just recognizing the independence of the United States at that moment. And aviation just happened at that moment with the balloon, the Montgolfier brothers going up in their first balloon. And so I'm trying, I'm trying to get at that, like the first chemistry lab in North America was in Boston, and Thomas Jefferson ran it. Like, computers are really just high speed abacuses, and the mechanical calculator was invented in 1939, and then the inventor Kurt Hertzstark was thrown into a concentration camp, and by the time he got out and got the patents put together, he got Betamaxed by the electronic calculator. But modernism is old, like atomic theory is 100 years old. Everything is going quite quickly, and everything is fairly recent, except for the big things.
Yeah, well, and I love what you just said, because I think the way that track feels to me is it's like someone from another time describing what's happening now.
Right.
And it has that feel to it, like when you talk about listening to music out of a box, like thinking
Right.
that's basically what an iPad or your phone is. And
Right, exactly.
yeah. With those squirrels running the wheel, and the whole
Mhm.
thing. Well, Joni says, so beautiful, the Menominee River Valley, so evocative, these will be treasured by your family. And
I hope so.
yeah, I feel like these are wonderful little nuggets. I also love, while we're talking about the sort of the time juxtaposition, when the sound that you were making to sound like the airplane, which, by the way, sounded great.
Yeah,
To me,
it was-
it also sounded like a spaceship too. To me, that.
Yeah.
Which sounded like sounds from like Star Wars or Star Trek or something, and which also kind of makes sense. It's like, yeah, is it the future? Is it now? Is it
Yeah.
200 years ago? I don't know.
Right.
It puts you in that place, like you
Mm-hmm.
said when you're looking at the cover art. Like I was transported to that spot.
That's what
Yeah.
we're after. Transit.
Well, I love the traveling with you on this Friday afternoon. If you all out there have comments, questions for Peter about these really interesting tracks, yes. Matt, a professor there in Champaign-Urbana,
Nice.
showing the Nick Offerman connection to the university. And but yeah, feel free to throw in your comments or questions. We'll get to as many of them as we can. And
Absolutely.
We are in the midpoint of the show, which is a time that I like to direct people to where they can get the real high quality recordings. Peter's got a great website, petermulvey.com, where you can find this recording and many others. And, a purchase of a CD, even the digital downloads go a long way to help an artist these days. When everything's gone streaming, one CD is 5 years of streams for a folk artist. So, so I highly recommend you head on over to petermulvey.com and pick up the CD. And then you also get the artwork, right? I mean,
Yes.
I mean, that's just something that you miss out on in the digital age. And are you mailing these from your place on the East Coast?
Actually, no, my manager in Pittsburgh mails them out of his basement. Oh,
All right.
it's so beautiful.
That's awesome. That's kind of next level for many of our guests.
yeah, that's like goals for us, right, Tony?
Yeah, that really is. But anyways, you head on over to petermulvey.com and you can grab the CD. And if you're more of a digital person, the Bandcamp Friday I believe is today. Is that right? Yes. So you can link from his place, his website. You can go to Bandcamp, and he gets 100% of that digital download.
Yes.
So win-win for everybody here today. If you like what you're hearing, head on over.
Oh yeah, and man, this record, and I own many of Peter's records, and I have to say, there's not a clunker in the bunch. So,
No.
Thank you.
buy
Thanks.
away. And thanks, Eric, for stopping by. And just a reminder too, if any of you, have other things you have to get to, and you can't tune in for the whole show, you can always check out the full episode later online here on YouTube or on our website as well.
Right.
But we want to continue with the music and the stories, I should say. And this next track is Some People. Is there anything you want to say about this?
Oh, I didn't even know if this fits particularly well on the record, but I just wanted to write one of those old Tin Pan Alley tunes. That's pretty much, and so I just sort of put it there. It is wry and somewhat detached, so hopefully it fits.
Well, I'll give it a listen and chime in the comments. You can let us know if it fits. This is Peter Mulvey, Some People, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
A one, two, three. Some people go to the synagogue, some people go to the woods, some people go to a shrink, and they think everybody should. Some people go crazy in plain sight on the streets of the neighborhood, and I go, Some people go to Washington, some people go to the moon, and some people go to a timeshare on the shores of a secret lagoon, and some people go the whole distance, some people go out way too soon. I just go, Some people go for a nice sandwich, some people go for a song. Some people could go on forever and some already gone on too long. And some people go and they put their heads in cryogenic stasis. Some people go too long without getting laid on a regular basis. Some people go Allahu Akbar, some people go Namaste. Some people go peace be with you, and some people go way hey hey, and some people go I know just what God is thinking no matter what you say. I just go Some people go to the tavern, and some people go to the church. Some senators go into airport johns, and they get their reputations besmirched. And some people go away from the altar just to leave someone in the lurch. And I go, Some people go by bicycle, and some people go by truck. And some people go for the ladies, some people go for lady luck, and some people go har har har. Some people go nyuk nyuk nyuk. I just go And some people go from home to work to home. They watch some TV, they brush their teeth and call it a day. Some people wish they had that life, and some people have that life, and all that they can think about is how to get away. Or some people, they go lightly, some people go heavy as hell. Some people go, this could all be better. Some people go, this is all just as well. And some people go to the mountain and get their souls rung like a bell. I just go, Some people go, all will be well, and all will be well, and all manner of things will be well. I just go,
Oh yeah, that was
Nice.
Peter Mulvey with Some People from his 2009 album Letters from a Flying Machine, which we are revisiting today with Peter here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. And I don't know, the consensus seemed pretty good for
Yeah.
that song, and I think it belongs. I think actually the nostalgic feel of the song does really fit in with what we were talking about with that last track we were listening to, kind of
Yeah.
mixing the sounds and thinking about time and
It puts the
way the world
narrator's
is.
voice of the letters, then like almost feel like the narrator has a story too, right? And so you
Yeah.
can filter the letters through that.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. Yeah, and yeah.
Well, Chris commented on the fiddle playing.
Yes, I was going to ask. I had a similar note. I fiddle, and then of course right after that, when that ended, the guitar solo came in. I was like, guitar. So tell
Yeah.
us about who's playing on this track.
So that's Chris Wagoner from the Common Faces.
From Madison, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he used to host a not Mad Folk. What was it called? Yeah, like a podcast.
Yeah.
In Madison. Yeah.
And then his wife Mary Gaines, they also do a couple of other tracks on the record, and they just fantastic musicians and old friends. And then the electric guitar player was David Goodrich, he's played on a million records of mine. and I believe they were not there at the same time. I think I went to Madison to record Chris, and then Goody came into the studio in Massachusetts. So they were trading bars like months apart, 1,000 miles away. That's what I remember about that. But they've
Yeah.
done it forever.
I was gonna
Um,
say that's professionals right there because it does sound like it has that live like club feel to it.
Yeah, so I was
yeah,
going to ask who engineered, like who put it all together, like who,
that
like
was Dave Chalfant.
Mm.
Yeah,
okay.
he definitely he did a lot of sort of herding the Sonic cats on this
Hmm.
particular
Well, it
recording.
sounds so cohesive. I would have guessed you were sitting in a room playing.
Most of my records are made that way for that reason. Like almost every record I've ever made, I've tended to just, sit down with the musicians and do a couple, three takes, and then usually take number one or two. Um, this one, and then this one, and There Is Another World were recorded where I sat down and played the tunes, and then the other musicians came down and played over them. So, but I mean, we're all colloquial musicians, so hopefully we're all good at, I mean, you're still reacting,
Hmm.
you're that's with any luck, you're not phoning it in.
Well, I love that track so much, and I'm so
Thank
glad
you,
you included it on the record and on today's show because,
thank you.
yeah, we never tell the artists what albums or songs to pick. So sometimes, we're surprised, and sometimes we're just really excited. So,
Nice,
and Dana says, "Hurting the Sonic Cats" sounds like the name of the next album, Peter.
nice, nice.
Well, and another comment here, Peter Lee says, "Get their souls rung like a bell." What a great lyric that is, and
Thank
you've
you.
got a lot of wonderful turns of phrases. And I'm just
Thank you.
curious about your, do you have a poetry background? I know you mentioned theater. Where does the lyric side of your music world come from?
A steady diet of poetry, for decades now. I guess, I mean, I took a couple of poetry courses in college, but then I just dived right in. Billy Collins was big with me for a while, and then I got into Jim Harrison, Mary Oliver, Kay Ryan. I went through a big Kay Ryan phase. Tom Hennon, he's a North Dakota poet,
Hmm.
one of my absolute favorites. Um, Ted Kooser, a Nebraska poet, and of course, like anyone, you have to stand in awe of Neruda and Shakespeare and Sappho, and so yeah, just people have been tuning up language with great alacrity for a long time, and I steal all the time in that song. All would be well, and all manner of, and all would be well, and all will be well, and all manner of things will be well, is from a medieval mystic named Hildegard of Bingen or Bingen. I don't even know how that town is pronounced.
Well, that's cool tidbit.
Steele.
Yeah.
Steele.
Yeah, well, that's the kind of thing we learn about here on the back catalog.
Yeah.
Right.
Mystics from days of yore.
Yeah. Well, again, if you like what you're hearing today, and I'm liking what I'm hearing, and again, it sounds really good, and through our headphones, I know it's going through a lot of ones and zeros to get to you through YouTube, but you'll want to pick up the digital cop version, either get the downloads today on Bandcamp or buy the album from Peter because it sounds real good. Um, and Haim just said, "I've always thought of this song as a call for unity. Is that the intention of when you wrote it?"
Huh. I mean, in the end, I think most art. It was Julian of Norwich,
That's
not.
my mom chiming in from
Oh,
Connecticut.
that's
So
really good. So, Hildegard of
Wow.
Bingen quotes. Um, so now I have to find out. There is music of heaven in all things, I guess. I don't know. So where on earth? Okay, um, that's
people,
really well done, Julian of Norwich.
that's my mom.
So is this song a call for unity? I mean, I suppose it's certainly a call for throwing your hands up in the face of the complexity of the universe. Like I've always looked at religious fundamentalists and really any kind of dogmatist, and thought, really, you're gonna decide that this whole mystery that we're all engaged in, that goes by so fleetingly, was created so that this opinion of yours could be enforced. It just
How
seems
convenient.
Yeah, exactly. How convenient that most of what God seems to want to do is tell women what to do with their bodies.
Yes.
That's astonishing.
Yeah. Well, on a better note, Liz says, Goody's an amazing guitarist and old friend. I remember that first CD he made with you. He brought it to his weekly gig at Toad in Cambridge.
Wow.
I have all of your records.
Oh my God.
Nice, Liz.
So,
1994, 95, Rapture, 1995, that first record we made together. Holy
Oh,
shit.
wow. And Liz says she's tuning in from New Zealand. Wow. So the ones and
that's
zeros
great.
are making it across oceans there.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
Pacific and Atlantic. And we're happy to have you all here. Again, if you're new to this show, this is what we do. We talk about music and listen to it. And that's pretty much all that it is. And
Yeah.
we're
I
having a
love
great
music.
time.
Send it on our internet flying machine here.
That's right.
Exactly.
And we want to make sure we get through these last two tracks before the end of today's show. So this is, by the way, this is like just the best title of all time, Vlad the Astrophysicist. And I have to say, I think my son would be interested in this book because one of his favorite books since he was a baby is Astrophysics for Babies, which talks about how stars were created and how the atoms of old stars live on in you, and it's very metaphysical.
Nice.
I missed that title when I was when my kids were young. I'm gonna check that one out.
That's
Well,
really good.
we can loan you a copy if you
All
want,
right.
because he probably knows it by heart now anyway. So, but tell us about Vlad the Astrophysicist.
So, this is kind of like the beating heart of the record. I have now, for about 22 years, I've played a gig at the National Youth Science Camp, which is a summer camp for high school seniors. They've all just graduated and they're all going to go off to college. And they go to this summer camp where they basically get to socialize with each other and learn they're not the only nerd in the room. And then midway through it, I play a gig for them in a cavern underneath West Virginia. And it's 2 kids from each state, and then a bunch of kids from Europe and a bunch of kids from the Caribbean and Latin America. And it, 130 brilliant teenagers. And it's just always been a ton of fun. But I met a guy there named Vlad the Astrophysicist. And, he did a lecture on deep time. And I asked him, have we met space aliens? And he... why haven't we met the space aliens? Why haven't we even heard from the space aliens? And he gave me a cogent answer, and it turned into this next track, and hilariously, so it turned into the next track on the record. And then it became a TED Talk. If you Google Peter Mulvey TED Talk.
No way. All right.
Yeah, it's one of the satellite TED things in Kansas City, and then it became an illustrated book.
Oh, nice.
wow.
With illustrations by Peter Nevins.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
so
by the
beautiful.
way, Ordinary Elephant says they have this book up on the mantle in their room.
Oh.
So,
Oh.
yeah, that
Thank
looks
you guys.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And
it's,
can people get the book from your website?
Yeah. You can order it from petermulvey.com, and it'll get shipped to you from a basement in Pittsburgh, like all the best astrophysics treatises.
Oh man. Well, I can't wait to dig into this one and find out why we have not been contacted by space aliens. So let's give it a listen. This is Vlad the Astrophysicist from Peter Mulvey here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
4th of December, 2008, over the eastern seaboard. Dear Adeline, far below, the long evening light is fleeing the mountains of Nova Scotia. With any luck, I will sleep in the sky tonight and wake up in Ireland. This summer, for reasons that are too complicated to go into here, I found myself sitting behind a motel in remote West Virginia with an astrophysicist from the Czech Republic named Vlad. Vlad and I see each other every few years, and we get along famously, probably because I love astrophysics, and he loves music, and we love beer. In fact, we had found some beer at a gas station, and we were drinking and talking as we sat in the metal chairs there by the river that goes behind the motel, looking up at a huge West Virginia sky full of stars. Vlad, I said, I've always wanted to know the answer to this question, and you strike me as the only guy I'm ever going to meet that can give me an answer. So lay it on me, pal. Are there intelligent civilizations out there other than us? And if there are, then why haven't they contacted us? Vlad looked at me over his glasses. That is 2 questions, he said. First question is easy to answer. The answer is yes. Many. Given the number of stars, the abundance of amino acids everywhere in the universe you look, very possibly many, many civilizations have arisen. No, the second question, why have they not contacted us? That is the real question. And it is difficult to answer, but here is my best guess. You must use your imagination. And he held his hands out at shoulder width, and he said, imagine the entire universe is only about this big, only the size of a beach ball. I mean, universe is not spherical, but go with me on this, okay? Now, imagine that all of time, 13.5 billion years from the Big Bang until now, imagine that goes by in, say, 5 minutes. On that scale, consider us. We are an intelligent civilization, yes? We make radio waves, rocket ships, baseball, Great Wall of China, Bach sonatas. Clearly intelligent civilization. The question is, how long do we last? Another 5,000 years? 50,000? Another 5 million years? It does not matter. On the universal scale that I am asking you to consider, those all look the same. They look like this. And he held his hand in front of him with thumb and forefinger pressed together and parted them for the barest instant. And as he did so, he made a sound through his teeth. Psst. He looked at me to see if I understood. Every human that has ever lived and will ever live, all the history that we have made and will ever make. Psst. He paused to let that sink in. It sank in. So, he said, here is the universe. And again, he held his hands out, defining the space. And here are the intelligent civilizations as they arise in the universe. And he moved his hand here. Psst. Then here. Psst. Then here. Psst. You see, he said, they never meet each other. Time is too long. Space is too large. I mean, sure, maybe at one time it happened that right next to each other at the same time, 2 civilizations sprang up and they had war, better yet, they had peace, they had arts exchanges, they had an intergalactic library. But they are all dead now, too. In all likelihood, we are alone. And by the time the next civilization arises, we will have been gone for a long, long time. I looked back at the sky, still so full of stars. I probably don't need to tell you that although they looked exactly the same as they had a couple of minutes ago, they looked completely different. I didn't say anything for a minute. Then I said, Vlad, would you like another beer? Anyhow, Adeline, the word from your household is that this week you began lifting your head up all by yourself, looking around at the faces that hover over your crib, occasionally favoring one of them with a smile. You keep up the good work. Love, Uncle Peter.
That was Peter Mulvey, Vlad the
Wow.
astrophysicist. I feel like we're all just like, there's a lot to take in with that track, and uh, while I'm processing that, I'm going to ask a much simpler question, which is at the end of that, with that noise, the sound of space or whatever that might be. That was that you again making that
Oh yeah,
noise?
yeah, definitely.
Excellent.
Like,
And I love that. Clearly, your theater background came out with
Mhm.
your
oh
with
yeah,
Vlad there. That was fantastic
oh
voice
Yeah.
yeah.
acting there.
And I mean, he's a real guy. He sounds pretty much like that. His name's Vladimir Chulupka, and I really asked him that, and he really pretty much gave me that. It takes about 2 minutes to explain that the likelihood is that we are currently the only sentient beings in the universe,
Right now.
which right now, and that
Right.
even if there had been hundreds of thousands of civilizations, it would be very difficult for them to overlap because time is so long.
Hmm.
Um,
And the
uh,
universe is so large, right? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I need, as soon as he told me that, I thought I've got to get this on a record. And it finally fell into place, years later, to, to juxtapose it against an infant,
Mm-hmm.
and it's even more moving now. I have an infant son now, and it's so bizarre to think of, his life is only 7 months old.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like a week is a long time to him,
Yeah.
and the scale of it forces you into this strange paradox. Like, it is both true that nothing is particularly significant, and yet everything
Mhm.
is of
Mm-hmm.
deep significance.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I echo what Ordinary Elephant is saying. And also several people, Matt and Dana and Chris, all talking about the music behind it. And I would really echo that. The guitar on that track, I mean, the story is so great no matter what, but there's something about the music on that really brings the emotion to this sort of deep philosophical
Yeah,
musings
I
that
hope so.
really changes it for me. I mean, I find it
Mm-hmm.
very moving. And tell us a little bit about the music. Was this something you composed for this track, or were you
Yeah.
just improvising, or?
No. I had this piece, and I didn't know where it would fit until I wrote the spoken word piece and framed it out, and I realized it's exactly as you said. It just, the tone of it works really well with the narrative. So I went
Mm-hmm.
for it. Yeah, it was as
Yeah.
simple as that.
It's kind of a nice calming repetition to it
Yeah,
And
right.
that's
that
how I feel
felt
like
like the
this.
universe, right? Like over time.
And
Yeah,
I feel like that's what this story is for me. I mean, as you said, it's kind of comforting to know that we're both the most important and the least important things in the universe simultaneously. I find that comforting because
right.
it takes a little burden off of your day-to-day trials a little bit when you think of your life that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Joni says, "Oh, there's so many great comments in here. I don't even know if we're going to get to read all of these, but Joni says the idea that you are speaking to these magical new babies, your nieces and nephews, and as you say, the paradox that a person's life is magical and unique and eternal, and just a blip in time."
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that description. And then also Haim says there's a fundamental truth in this song, yet NASA has announced discoveries of multiple habitable planets around a single star. So maybe it's possible for them to meet after all. Who knows? Anything is possible.
absolutely.
And I think
Right,
that's also something he says. It's like nothing's impossible. It's just
right.
it might be unlikely,
I
but
want the intergalactic library and art
I
exchange.
that was
Right.
so great.
That would be like the future I'd be interested in.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I feel like we could have spent a whole episode just dissecting this track, but
So cool.
we are already at an hour, but I don't know how you all feel, but really wanted to get to this final short track. Is that good for everybody?
I can swing
I'm
it.
good. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then let's dig into the coda, the ending of your record. Is there anything you want to say about this?
Yeah, this is the final Gershwin Brothers tune. George Gershwin wrote this bit of music, and then he died. and Ira wrote the lyric. And the first line is, it's very clear, our love is here to stay. And I feel like the whole record sort of leads up to Vlad. Vlad sort of puts us in our place in the temporal reality of the universe, and then the old jazz tune suddenly sounds very new.
Mm. A new light, and I added the parentheses there. I think the track just said Coda, but then when you sent the email with the songs you wanted, you had put "Love Is Here to Stay." So for those of you out there, you may see it as just Coda on the record, but yeah, what a perfect way to end it. "Love Is Here to Stay" here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Very clear, our love is here to stay. Not for a year, but ever and a day. Oh, the radio and the telephone and the movies that we know may just be passing fancies, and in time may go. But oh my dear, our love is here to stay. Together we're going a long, long, long way. And in time the Rockies will crumble, Gibraltar will tumble, they are only made of clay. But forever and a day, our love is here to stay. Our love is here to stay.
All right. Well, I think that is the perfect way to end the show. And I would also say that with all the way the sound effects, at the ends of the songs probably go into the next track, I feel like now I just want to listen to the whole record sequentially because I have a feeling like the way they fit together is probably really special in hearing all these stories in a row. So thank you so much, Peter, for sharing these songs, and what great stories about them.
Thank you for doing this service. I got to go back and listen to. I have so many friends who've been on this podcast, so I can't
we recommend it. It's an amazing opportunity to kind of get some insights into to wonderful artists.
And I would say many of the artists, even the ones I knew pretty well, both either personally or musically, I think I've learned heard some really crazy stories that I would have never predicted. So. Yeah. Weird things come out here at the Back Catalog Listening Party, and in this crazy small and huge universe of ours. So we are happy.
People loving the show, by the way, Peter. I just want to say we've had multiple requests to have you back. We know you have a large back catalog, so I sure hope we can make that happen again in the future.
I would love to. They're in my basement. I got to get them out of there.
Get them to Pittsburgh.
Exactly. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. If you liked the show today, like it on YouTube, give it the thumbs up, direct more bots to this guy, Peter Mulvey, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel to find out about future shows. Next week, I don't remember who's next week, but we have some really great people coming up.
We have Jake Manders next week.
Cool.
A wonderful songwriter and artist as well, visual artist, and it's going to be very fun.
And we have some other great artists coming up. We have Lucy Kaplansky, Claudia Schmidt, Natalia Zuckerman, all kinds of great artists. So make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also want to thank all our Patreon people. These are the folks that keep the show going and have kept it going for 108 episodes.
Wow.
Benny, Ann, Alinda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, Galen, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, and John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Court, Matt, Steve, Mark, Homestead, Pick and Parlor, Severin, Lynn, Craig, Jake, Mary, and many tracks, and maybe you. If you would like to support the show and get invited to cool after parties, private live stream concerts, things like that, and get the inside scoop on all things back catalog, then you can support the show. And see a
Hey,
bunch of
Becky.
art. Becky,
I'll be at sound check momentarily.
that's
I
probably why.
promise.
That's probably why she's checking in. She's like, "Where are they on the YouTube show?"
That's
That's
great.
awesome. Well, we will release Tony, but again, have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Get this album; sounds amazing. Peter, thank you for spending your hour plus with us. This has been such a treat.
Thank you
Yeah.
both so much. Appreciate it. I'll see you on the flip side.
Have
All
a great
right.
week, everybody.
Have
Cheers.
a great week. We'll see you next time on the Back Catalog.